This is Campbell Easton reporting for Good Morning Grahamstown.
Good morning, 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 Grahamstown.
Molo Makana.
I'm Christos.
And I am Nikho Mageza. Last week, South Africans marked 20 years of democracy by casting their votes in the country's fifth democratic elections. On today's show, we explore the issues that motivated Makana residents to vote or not. We focus on how they made the most important decisions citizens can make in a democracy. Where do Grahamstonians turn for information on a party candidates and political manifestos? What influences our choices of a political party? But first, let's take a look at how the 2014 elections panned out. Ali?
This year saw some highs and lows. A record number of parties, 29, were represented nationally. Voter turnout was the lowest in modern South African history, 73%. The ANC dropped 3%, and this was picked up by the DA, which gained 4%. COPE dropped 6.5%, while the new kids on the block, the EFF, gained about the same. Agang was the big disappointment after much fanfare with only 2 seats in Parliament. 13 parties in total will be represented in the new Parliament. In the Eastern Cape, 6 parties were represented. It's no surprise that the ANC gained overall, but by just over 1%, while the DA gained 6%. In Makana, the ANC took 9 of the 12 wards, the other 3 going to the DA. The most hotly contested area of Grahamstown was Ward 8, which the DA took by just 1 single vote. Just in case you thought it didn't matter whether you cast your ballot, take note, it really does count.
What we can see from the results is that the ANC is holding its overwhelming majority in the Eastern Cape, which is one of the poorest provinces. Rhea Macdonald spoke to Makana residents to see what impact continuous ANC rule has had on their lives and how that has affected their vote.
Good morning. We're here today at Mary Waters High School, where hundreds of residents have turned up to cast their vote in the national elections. Some of the issues being raised in Ward 3 are water, housing, and crime. We've spoken to quite a few voters today who are remaining loyal to parties that they voted for in the past. Residents admit that there has been very little action regarding service delivery under the current government, but despite these issues, many ANC supporters are not changing their vote. Other voters have remained loyal to the opposition party, the DA, since 1994, hoping for change. One has to ask, however, if they are informed in their decisions, or simply stuck in their ways.
Since I vote, I'm voting for the DA. And I've said, if God come and fetch me, then I'll be a DA.
From what we have heard, residents believe the government has a long way to go in regards to social accountability. Many issues in communities have not been addressed, and the people are left waiting for promises to be fulfilled.
Our roads are not right. Everything is broken there in Vergenoeg. The pipes are broken, the roofs are leaking, and the education is not right anymore.
I didn't get nothing, but I like to vote for them.
My biggest issue was unemployment. I've struggled for 2 years to get an employment. My younger sister is also a graduate, but is struggling to get employment here in South Africa.
Whatever the outcome of these elections, issues with Nkandla are still at the back of people's minds. However, not everyone has a problem with the current president's spending.
Everything is good to us because of ANC. I'm not going to say I'm not voting, it's because of Nkandla issue. I'm going to vote because of this land. The people are dying for that, you know. Mandela and the other comrades. Thank you, President, for everything you gave to us. He's a president for life.
So today we have seen that many residents are sticking to the same parties they have voted for over the years. Whether for better or worse remains to be seen. This is Rhea Macdonald reporting for Good Morning Grahamstown. Back to you.
So, Nikho, it seems that some voters haven't changed their allegiances despite the failure to deliver on election promises.
Yes, Ali, but this begs the question. How are these votes informed? Where do voters turn for information? How our roaming reporters took the polling stations to find out what people have to say.
Where did I get my information about today? Most of it came from the internet, I guess, and news networks and media houses and things like that.
There's been tons of election debates and political debates on campus as well as on TV. SABC has been broadcasting tons of debates. Twitter is a fantastic source of information.
I've always prayed, I've got a big picture there where God stands with the Bible, and I've asked God to give me, and I've been praying, and God sent me. He sent me to me. As I'm standing here, before I went out of my house, I was praying to God.
Well, for one thing, the OP debate helped me out. Conversations in the dining hall, parents, chatting to them, information on the manifestos or websites.
So it seems that social media is becoming an important platform, especially with the younger generation. But have parties used platforms like Twitter and Facebook to effectively communicate with young voters? Sandile Manganyela looks at this trend.
New media has taken the world by storm. In South Africa, social media in particular has played a very special role in the political landscape.
In this day and age, obviously social media is the most viable option. It spreads a lot faster than posters can. It's the age of technology, so most people are on Facebook, on Twitter, and whatever.
Social media, especially among the youth, it reaches probably more than most, yeah.
Well, I think that what social media has done is to give power to the people. It has made people be able to have voices. It has given power to the little people so that their voices are heard by people in power. And it has also managed to mobilize people with a common vision.
Ntobi Siptelezi, the president of the Rhodes University branch of SASCO, believes that new media has both pros and cons.
You can't separate what you say on social media from yourself because they are born by you. If what you say on social media is bringing the organization into disrepute, we are going to charge you.
Thank you, Sandile. It looks like the born-frees, at least, are shifting away from traditional news sources and rallies to social media for their information.
Absolutely, Nikho. It seems more immediate, and I think that it also opens the way for smaller parties who don't have piles of cash to spend on promotion. But it's not just political parties who have been using social media to inform voters. At Rhodes University, student news organizations like the Oppidan Press successfully used Twitter to include youth voices in their live stream election debate. The hashtag #OppiDebate trended nationally at #1 towards the end of the program. Let's take a look at what the parties represented had to say on the night.
On the 30th of May, Rhodes University was home to the first ever student press-run electoral debate. With the assistance from the university, student press provided an opportunity for political discussion leading up to the impending elections on the 7th of May, and this is where it all happened.
As we mark 20 years since the first democratic elections, South Africans are seeing a changing political landscape and a vastly different political electorate. And so the first question is, why should we vote for you?
It is important for all young people in this country to vote for the ANC because it is the ANC that has managed in fighting against apartheid and dismantled that system.
Maphang's plan for entrepreneurship, education, empowerment, effective government and employment comes together to make this town and this university work the way they should. Why in a university town can we not raise our township schools to a higher standard? We have students from 50 countries but hardly any from our own township school.
That South Africa is plagued with a plethora of political, economic and social challenges relating to increasing poverty, inequality, high levels of unemployment, a widening gap between the poor and the rich.
The DA will bring change to South Africa. We will grow the economy and create jobs. We will cut corruption and fearlessly tackle crime. We will improve the delivery of housing and basic services through clean, efficient government, as we have done in the Western Cape.
This has been Jenna Lillie reporting from Grahamstown.
However, Ali, events like the Oppidan debate have been the exception. I'm not sure that media practitioners, particularly in Grahamstown, have done enough to inform voters of their choices. Good Morning Grahamstown reporters visited polling stations to see how people voted on the day.
With Election Day finally here, residents are flocking to polling stations, eager to cast their votes and have their voices heard. Here at Makana's Ward 12, citizens were candid, being more than happy to tell us the reasons behind their decision to vote.
I'd like to see service delivery being done properly.
My main reasoning behind who I'm going to vote for is just to take power away from the ANC.
I've always wanted to be an active member of South Africa and its democracy.
Some of the changes that I would like to see is definitely in terms of social equality, especially within the Eastern Cape.
It's not just blind loyalty. It's loyalty to an organisation that I'm an intrinsic part of. I helped build the organisation, I fought for this vote.
But not everybody will be taking part today. With less than half of South Africans registered, it's clear that many feel inclined to abstain from voting. We set out to ask what might be causing a South African to remove themselves from the democratic process.
I don't really think there's anybody worth voting for. In the 94 election, voting for Mandela would have been important to me. Or pre-94, actually voting for, I suppose, the PFP or the, whatever's going to oppose apartheid was important. I just don't feel there's the same thing at the moment.
I've decided not to vote in these elections. I'm not sure what we've got set up as a system of government really works well enough for me to vote for it, or even to spoil my ballot, which would be a suggestion that if there was a party I could vote for, I would.
In addition to those who are abstaining from today's vote, there are also those whose objection is taking a more active role. In the last few months, many prominent South African voices have proposed a Vote No campaign, encouraging citizens to actively protest the elections by spoiling their ballots. We spoke to a local proponent of the Vote No campaign, founder of the Unemployed People's Movement, Ayanda Kota, to try and understand what might motivate someone to do so.
Some of the voters are making a statement of being unhappy. Some of the voters are making a statement to say we feel none of the political parties in these ballot papers represents our needs. I'll be spoiling my vote, right? So I'm also making a statement. Just as people will be making a statement, we will be choosing a political party of their choice. I'm saying the political of my choice is not in this ballot paper, therefore I'm spoiling it.
From Hill Street Library, this is Campbell Easton reporting for Good Morning Grahamstown. Back to you.
Has apathy been a prevailing feature?
It seemed quite positive, actually. There was a far bigger turnout than everyone was expecting, so we saw a lot of smiling faces and a lot of people who were very happy to be involved.
So, Campbell, have you had a chance to vote yet?
I lost my ID and so I wasn't able to register.
Thank you, Campbell. Can you tell us what the mood was like on the day?
Well, we spoke to some people who put forward a good case for not voting. But judging from the people who turned out, I would say that apathy isn't prevailing. I'd say there are a lot of people who want to get involved in our country's future.
We now turn to our social media expert, Aneesha Pratt, to tell us about the trends of the day.
Well, good morning. This is actually the first national election since social media platforms really started to take off in South Africa. The first major trend we saw on election day were photos of thummies. South African voters from as far as Beijing and London tweeted and Instagram pictures of their left thumbs, showing off their voting marks under the hashtags inked and thummy. The other big trend were pictures like these, piles of dumped ballot papers and politicians confronting IEC officials with their arms full of voting papers. While none of these piles of ballot papers were large enough to actually influence the result in any province or nationally, all major parties came out defending the credibility of the elections. Social media was intense and the pictures quickly went viral.
Thank you for that, Aneesha. People may have expressed themselves on social media, but that doesn't mean that they were immune to more traditional methods of campaigning. Parties reminded us that there's nothing quite like a table and banners to reach undecided voters. Though to some this seemed like last-minute campaigning, Nikho Mageza had a look at some of the conflict between parties at the IEC officials on the day.
At first glance, it appears that the ANC is doing last-minute campaigning. However, their motive proved to be legitimate.
So our understanding is that it's perfectly legitimate to have people wearing the T-shirts, to be in the vicinity of the voting station, to set up voting tables. As you say, coming to the tables is completely voluntary. People stop by if they want to let their party know that they are here and that they've come and they're proud of their vote.
This young lady, who was escorting elderly into the voting station, was removed by a party agent and accused of interfering with the voting process.
Although the IEC will not comment on the matter, it indicates that there might have previously been cases where voters were influenced to vote for a particular party.
There is no interference whatsoever. Our cadres, they understand very well that it is unlawful. It will be unlawful for them in doing the ANC work to interfere with the work of the IEC. I wouldn't speculate if there are people inside wearing ANC t-shirts masquerading as ANC party agents.
From what we've gathered outside the voting station of Nolo Hall, the ANC has every right to be wearing their t-shirts, and they also have every right to be having the information desk as long as it's 100 meters away from the IEC voting station itself. But we asked the question, where are the other parties? This is Nikho Mageza signing out from Nolo Hall, Grahamstown.
You know, Ali, when I was there, the conflict seemed to show misunderstanding over special voting. The old and informed could have applied for special votes and either had officials come to their homes or avoided the long queues by voting over 2 days before the official election date. However, many residents didn't seem to know the process. Anna Kharuchas took a look at the special voting process to see the people who needed it knew about it.
Grahamstown has been hit by national election fever. Campaign posters, front pages of newspapers, as well as political debates, well attended by the Grahamstown community, indicate that they're ready to head to the polls on the 7th of May. The South African Electoral Commission has used its website as well as the media to provide information for the South African population on all aspects of the voting process. However, it seems that some of these aspects have been left out in the cold. One of these is the special vote.
I didn't know that personally, that there were special arrangements for the disabled, for the elderly, and etc. I absolutely don't think I'm going to be voting on the day. It's just not feasible for me physically to be in a long queue for hours on end to vote when I should have gotten the opportunity to vote some other way.
We also spoke to Brookwood caretakers, and they, as well as their patients, were not aware of the special voting process. So it may seem that only people included in the IEC fold were informed about it.
I did vote. I registered for a special vote, and the process was very simple. The IEC made it very easy for us people that were working today to be able to vote beforehand. And the whole process was handled very efficiently as well. Short and sweet, no time wasted. It's a very good process they have in place for special votes.
We've seen why Grahamstonians have voted and the change that they want to see, but sometimes the promises of elections offer a quick fix rather than true change. A campaign promise from 2011, the building of a sports centre in Joza, has created a big white elephant. Originally budgeted at 28 million rand, the cost skyrocketed before its completion. But what did the people really get?
I am Louise reporting outside the old indoor sports centre in Joza. Today it is being used as one of the many Grahamstown voting stations for the 2014 elections. It seems as though this has been its only function in years. 39 million rand was spent on a new sports centre which is not functioning, despite the fact that it was built after the 2011 elections. I'm speaking to members of the community to find out if they think that this 39 million rand could have been used more effectively. Are you aware that 39 million rand was spent to build this new sports centre?
No, actually, I wasn't aware, actually. It's quite interesting how much they are actually willing to spend on such luxuries instead of actually supplying housing for poor people and all of that.
Is there anything else except housing that you think they could have spent the money on?
On building schools, actually, proper schools, and maybe like improving the schools, because the way some schools actually look right now, it's actually poor. For example, Benjamin Mahlasela, just up in the location, it looks terrible. It's actually terrifying to actually look at it.
I know that it was built for the people, for the community, but it's not working now, so I can't say it was used wisely. It can be used on something else, like to fix roads. As you can see, the roads that are not right, and houses are not right too. Yeah, I think it can use on those things.
Judging from what we've just heard from members of the Xhosa community, it is clear that they feel like the 39 million rand that was spent to build a new sports centre could have been used for more pressing issues. For example, housing, reducing unemployment, to fix the roads. Back to you in studio.
So, Louise, were any officials available for comment?
Well, there was a member of the police and the ward councillor, but unfortunately they were unable to speak to us because they have their own PR representative who was not on site to speak to. Back to you in studio.
The prevailing issues for most people seems to be basic services. Education, water and housing seem to be more important to the people of Ward 6 than non-functioning sports centre.
Yes, Nikho, a brand new police station just across the road from the sports centre also stands vacant most of the time. So it looks like the residents of Xhosa, at least, even when the election promises are kept, they still lose.
As Grahamstown returns to normal after all the campaigning and hype, we should be holding the newly elected officials accountable to their election manifestos, as well as demanding effective service delivery, not splashy showpieces.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us at Good Morning Grahamstown for our special election coverage show. Until next time, Sala Kakutle.
Thank you and goodbye. Aww.